ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भाः
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम्
वन्दे
वन्दे
गुरुपरम्पराम्।
ॐ सहना
ॐ
भवतु
सहना भवतु
सहनावतु
सहनौ
सहनौ
भुनक्तु
भवीर्यं कर्वावहै
करवावहै
यस्मिनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु ॐ
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति शान्ति
शान्तिः।
शान्तिः
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. Good morning, everybody.
ॐ तत्सत्
Okay, so we will continue with where we left off. We had completed mantra number 12, correct? So we will now look at mantra 13. This is Kathopanishad, second chapter, last section, third section. So let us chant. Please unmute yourself. Astityevo
अस्तीत्येवोपलब्धव्यः
अस्तीत्येवोपलब्धव्यस्तः
तत्त्वभावेन चोभयोः
तत्त्वभावेन
तत्त्वभावेन
चोभयोः
चोभयोः
अस्तीत्येवोपलब्धस्य
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 तत्त्वभावप्रसीदति
तत्त्वभावः
तत्त्वभावः
प्रसीदति
So look at the words upalabdhavyah is to be known. The subject is not given. What is the subject?
Atma, Brahman.
Brahman. So Brahman upalabdhavyah. Brahman is to be known. Then if you look at the breakup, asti iti eva upalabdhavyasya. Upalabdhavyah. Asti iti eva is to be known as asti, is to be known as existing. So Brahman is first to be known as existing. First stage in Brahmagyanam is Brahman asti. Okay. This is Paroksha Jnanam or Aparoksha Jnanam?
Paroksha.
Paroksha Jnanam. The first stage of any Atma inquiry, any Brahman inquiry, is Paroksha Jnanam. Brahman exists. Then, cha, then, after Brahman asti knowledge is there, Tattva Bhavena. Then you should know what that real nature of Brahman is. Tattva Bhavena. Brahman in its own real nature. Ubhayoho, of these two, Tattva Bhavaha, the real nature, Upalabdhavyasya, which has been known as what? Iti eva asti, as existing. Prasidati. Prasidati is actually is pleased. So you can say favors by revealing itself. So here Yamaraj is saying that he is giving the way that Brahman knowledge, Brahma Jnanam is to be approached. There are two stages. First is Brahman Asti. And to know that something exists, you need a Pramanam. None of the worldly Pramanams which we have can reveal Brahman. This we have seen in Mundaka also. Do you remember the particular mantra?
Agrahyam.
Agrahyam Adrishyam. It means it's not available to any of your pramanams, five pramanams. Or even the sixth one, the mind, it is not available. Therefore, the only pramanam is what? Veda pramanam. Therefore, if Yamraj is saying that Brahman Asti is to be known, that knowledge can only come from Veda pramanam. And that knowledge is called Paroksha Jnanam. Remember that when we say that knowledge can come only from Veda pramanam, you are saying that you are equating Veda pramanam to a primary source of knowledge, right? You have all your sense organs are primary sources of knowledge. Your eye is a primary source, your ear is a primary source. So when you see a red bottle, You don't need any other source of knowledge to verify that knowledge. So, a primary source of knowledge is a knowledge where you accept the knowledge as the real knowledge, as real tattva. So, when you, for example, when you hear a sound, you know that sound is heard. Now, you may inquire into what kind of sound it is, whether it is a car backfire, whether it's a cracker, or a bomb. So that's the inquiry into the nature of the knowledge. But the fact that the sound is there, that you don't require any other pramanam to tell you. So that is called a primary source of knowledge, where you do not doubt the information coming from that pramanam. So currently you have, I mean, in this world you have five pramanams, which is processed by the sixth one, the mind. None of them can have access to Brahman. And therefore you have to give Veda the same pedestal as you give these five pramanams. So whatever Veda says, you have to accept that it is the truth. As I said, you may inquire into what the meaning of that sentence is, right? But then you cannot say that, no, I don't believe this. For example, Veda says that if you do Vaidika karma, you get punya. That's the only source from where that knowledge comes, right? You cannot say that I don't believe it. You may inquire into what is Vaidika karma, what is punyam, what is the result of that punyam, all these inquiries you can do. But the fact that Veda says that on Vaidika karma, punyam is generated, that is to be taken as the truth, the tattva. That's what's called a pramana. And so when Veda says that Brahman exists, we accept that Brahman exists. And this is Paroksha Brahmajnana. Brahman exists. Now you can inquire, what is that Brahman? Right? Now, this is a crucial feature of any inquiry. Unless you know something is there, you cannot inquire into that thing. That statement is clear. Can you give an example to illustrate that statement? Unless you know that something exists, no inquiry is possible. What what example can you give to illustrate that?
Swarga.
Sorry?
Swarga, heavens. Can we use that? No.
No. I'm saying unless you know that something is there, you cannot inquire.
Like,
You just say something you don't know. You say that, okay, I tell you, Kush, please inquire into brr. What will Kush do? Kush, what will you do?
Acharya I'll make the same sound and try to understand what exactly it is.
You will ask me, what is it? What is it? Right?
Yeah.
So, what does it mean? So, you must know what it means. And therefore, that inquiry is that knowledge is very important before you can inquire. So, here, Brahman exists, you have got that knowledge, that Paroksha Jnanam you have. Now you can do the inquiry into Brahman. So that is the second stage. This is what Yamraj is saying. Brahman knowledge, Brahma Jnanam has to take place in two stages. Brahma Asti and what is Brahman? That is the second stage. Now I accept Brahman and inquire into that Brahman. Right. So what is happening is from the external world, Veda is saying, as you see, all the neti, all those prakriyas, as you will see, what are they telling you? That you have to negate all the objects in the external world before you can come to Brahman. So when you negate all the external world objects, you will find there is an observer. Right? Remember that neti brings you to a stage where you negate everything. When you negate the last kosha, you find that there is nothing, there is only blankness of mind. And then you find that there is a observer of that blankness of mind. And then you say, okay, now I know what Brahman is. First, I learned that Brahman exists. Now I have done all the prakriyas. I have negated the entire anatma. and I find that only blackness is there. How do I know that blackness is there? There is a consciousness principle which is aware of that blackness. And that consciousness principle is what? That is Brahman. Up to here is what? Paroksha Jnanam or Aparoksha Jnanam?
Parokshanyanam.
It's Paroksha Jnanam. You know there is a Brahman. You know that that Brahman is the consciousness principle which is aware of the blankness when everything is negated. And then you say, I am aware of the blankness. I am the person who is aware of the blankness. Therefore, that Brahman must be I. Right? That's a flow of thought. Very, very simplified Vedanta, but flow of thought. So when you come to this flow of thought, that Brahman which is aware of this blankness after everything else is negated, I am the Brahman alone. That is aparoksha jnana. So what is being said is that without paroksha jnanam, you can never come to aparoksha jnana. And aparoksha jnanam is not complete. So, sorry, paroksha jnanam is not complete unless you come to aparoksha jnana. And this our prakriya for this is what? We have studied so many Upanishads. What is the prakriya? The prakriya we do is called adhyaropa apavada prakriya. Or it's called adhyaropa apavada nyaya. It is the primary method, prakriya, followed for revealing Brahman in all the Upanishads. Okay. What does it mean? Adhyaropa, superimposition. So first I accept existence of Anatma Jagat. And then I say this Jagat, this Anatma, is a karyam, it's a product. And if there is a product, then I look around the world and I say any product in this world necessarily implies what?
A Karanam is there.
A karanam. Any karyam necessarily implies a karanam. That is the rule of this world. And I extend that and say, now if Jagat is a karyam, obviously there has to be a karanam. And therefore, I say that Brahman is the Jagat Karanam. This is Brahman Asti Jnana, Adhyaropa. Once I accept, why do we need this? To arrive at the conclusion that there is a Brahman which is a Karanam, right? Shruti has said that Brahman is existing. What is that Brahman? With this logic that any product needs a creator, you say this universe is a product. Therefore, the creator must be Brahman. And therefore, this is Brahman Asti Jnana. Brahman is. Brahman is what? Brahman is Jagat Karanam. Then you come to the second stage. The second stage is called Apavada. What is Apavada? Negation of the Karya Prapancha, negation of the product, the universe. Right? Once you negate the universe, what is happening? The Karyam has been negated. And the word Karanam, the status of Karanam, can go to Brahman only if there is a existing Karyam. This world, which is the Karyam, you have negated as Mithya. And therefore, Karyam itself is not there. When Karyam itself is not there, don't say Brahman, the creator, is not there. Okay. Because when you say Brahman is the creator of the Jagat, when you say Jagat is not there, what can you say correctly? You cannot say Brahman is not there. What should be said?
Jagat doesn't exist independently of.
Jagat doesn't exist is fine. You have negated Jagat already. Then what is the next statement?
When the created itself is not there, then there's no point of the creator, but
Then
Brahman
when
is
the
still.
product is absolute. So when the Brahman is no longer the Jagat Karanam. because Karyam is not there. And therefore, Brahman is not the Karyam. Brahman is not the Karanam also. Therefore, Brahman becomes Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, something other than the product and the creator. So that we have seen this earlier using the Sanskrit terminology. Brahman is Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, something different from the product and the creator, from the created and the creator. In this mantra, if you see, this is what is being called Tattva Bhava Jnana, the real nature of Brahman, which is Karya, Karana, Vilakshana. Now look at the words. Asti, asti iti eva upalabdhavya. Asti eva. Asti iti eva upalabdhavya. You should understand that this Karanam Brahma exists. So this is the first stage. Brahman asti as Jagat Karanam iti eva upalabdhavya. All these you have to fill up. You should understand that Brahman exists as the Jagat Karanam. Satkarya, which has got an existing Karya Prapanchaha. And what are they? Buddhyadi Upadibhihi. Shankara says they are all Upadis are like Buddhi, Indriya, etc. A very important clarification by Shankaracharya. This Karanam Brahma, which has got an existing Karya Prapancha, which has got an existing universe, has got upadis like buddhyadi, buddhi, etc., which means buddhi, manaha, indriyas, all these are there. What is Shankara telling us? When you say Karanam Brahma has got upadis, what is being told?
Saguna Brahma.
Saguna Brahma, Ishvara, Ishvara. That is Maya, Sahita, Brahma. Okay. So Shankara is saying that that Brahma, which is Jagat Karanam, is not Nirguna Brahma. It has got upadis. Therefore, it is Saguna Ishvara. This is the first stage, Adhyasa. Right? Now comes the Apavada. So Shankara writes in his commentary, Karyam Karanam Vyatirekena Nasti. A product, Karyam. Karanam Vyatirekena Nasti will not exist separate from its cause. No product can exist separate from the cause. And therefore, he says, when at the time the Jagat is negated, at that time, what happens? That Brahman doesn't have a product at all. No Karya Prapancha, no universe present, because you are negating the universe. And therefore, that Brahman is Karya, Karana, Vilakshanam. Once the product is gone, then the status of creator has also gone. If the creation is gone, the word creator has lost its meaning and therefore should be dropped. And therefore he says, he quotes, Shankara quotes from Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam vrittiketva vrittiketyeva satyam. He says that the words on the tongue, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam. The clay, there is clay he's talking about, and he's talking about the pot. So he's talking about the pot. He says that pot is Vacharambhanam. Some is a word, Namadheyam, beginning on the tongue. So the word, what you think is a substance pot, he says, is nothing but a word which begins on the tongue and ends there. Because what is a Satyam? Mrittike. The mrid, the clay is Satyam. It's a very famous Shruti Vakyam to show that all products are mithya only. So vikara here means karyam. So what he is saying is all products, any product, of course he's talking about the pot. Any product is only a name which is produced by the tongue and remains on the tongue. What is the nama? The Satyam is clay alone. So this is a quote which is of course indicating that all products are only mithya. So he says at the time of negation, that Brahman is free from all upadhis. It doesn't have the status of a karanam. And since it doesn't have the status of a karanam, that Brahman cannot be revealed through any indicator in Vyavaharika. Why? You have negated the Jagat. Right? Since you have negated the Jagat, there is no indicator available to reveal the Brahman, who is no longer a creator. You can reveal that Brahman who has creator status. You cannot reveal that Brahman which has got no creator status at all. So he says that Brahman is alingasya, has no indicators at all. Remember that we had talked about Tathastha Lakshanam and Swarupa Lakshanam. Can somebody explain the difference between Swarupa Lakshanam and Tatastha Lakshanam? Try.
May I try, Acharya?
Please, please.
Swarupa Lakshanam is the inherent quality or the inherent nature which is always there. It never comes and goes. Tathastha Lakshanam is something which is temporary, which comes and goes.
Very good. Does anybody know why it is called Tatastha Lakshanam?
Yeah,
Uh,
Re-
You had explained it to us with an example of a yellow car in
Yeah.
front of a house. And so when you identify the house, because of that yellow car, that car can go, and that is the tatastha. The tat, like the banks of a river, change.
So it is the
Upadhis come and go.
Tatha means the banks of a river. The river is the water. So he's saying that at any point of time, the river doesn't have the same Tatha. Point A of the river bank is different from point B of the river bank when that water reaches the river. So essentially, Tatastha means something which is not permanent. Now, with that definition, when you say that Jagat reveals Brahman, so Jagat becomes a Lakshanam. Remember, Jagat is the Tatastha Lakshanam, not the Swarupa Lakshanam. Why is that so? Because why do we say Jagat is Tatastha Lakshanam?
It comes and goes at some time during pralayam, it will go away.
Yeah, because during Pralayam, the universe is no longer there, and therefore it comes and goes. Therefore, it is Tatastha Lakshanam. So he says Tatastha Lakshanam can reveal only the creator. Because as long as Jagat is there, Brahman has a creator status. But when Jagat is not there, so of course we are not talking about Pralayam here. We are talking about the negation intellectually of the Jagat. Jagat is no longer Satyam. Therefore, that Mithya Jagat you negate, there is no Jagat left for you to indicate what is Brahman. And therefore, Alingasya Brahman. And he, of course, says that this Brahman cannot be revealed as Sat or Asat. Right? And here, of course, Sat or Asat, basically, you have to take it as Sat being the creator and Asat being the creation. So that Brahman cannot be revealed by either Sat or Asat. Right? Either creator or creation, it cannot be revealed. And one very important point he brings out, whenever you say something is Sat and Asat, remember that even when you say Brahman is Satya, right? We saw this earlier in Tattva. What was the definition of Tattva of Sat? Trikale Tishtati Iti Sat. Right? Iti Sat. Remember that definition, Shankara points out, that definition is always from Vyavaharika Drishti. Why so? The Sat and Asat
Acharya ji,
definitions.
because
Please go ahead.
Because I'm still there and then I'm saying Brahman is Sat. I still feel like I'm different from Brahman.
Okay,
Trikala
that's
exists in Vyavaharika only.
yes. Tripurti exists only in Vyavaharika. Therefore, you say Sat Asat. It is always from Vyavaharika Drishti. Any adjective you use to describe, it's only from Vyavaharika Drishti. From the Paramarthika Drishti, there are no words to describe Brahman. So Brahman is always represented by silence from Paramarthika Drishti. That is why when they say, like there is, it's of course drawn from the Mandika Upanishad, that when you chant Om, there are three alphabets, A, U, Ma, and then there is silence, right? So A, U, Ma are the three Satyams, Vyavaharika Satyams. What are they? Some
We
of
are
us have
talking
done,
about
some of us
the
have done
avatma,
Mandukya, right?
the Shariram,
You can talk
waking.
about Shariram, that is Vyashti.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at Brahman, then you're talking about the Sthula universe and the Sukshma universe
Mm.
and the Karana universe. All the three, they are all Vyavaharika only.
Yes.
And after that is silence, which is Brahman.
Amatra Brahma.
Or matras. We call it in Matra and okay. So he says Tattva Bhavo Bhavati. This is the real nature of Brahman, which is revealed as what? Without any upadhi. It's a nirupadhika swarupa Brahman. When he says Tena Rupena, in this manner also, Atma has to be understood. So, to just summarize, the mantra has so far said that Brahman has to be understood as Saguna Brahman first, and also as Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, Nirguna Brahman. So, a question will come. Okay, I have to understand Brahman as both Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. Is this to take place together? Is the understanding necessarily simultaneous or is it sequential? So Upanishad says it is always sequential. And that's why it says first Brahman asti, come to Karanam Brahman, and then negate, come to Akaranam, Karya, Kara, Vilakshana, Brahman. That is why in any proper systematic teaching, it always starts with Karanam Brahma, and then alone can they go to Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, Brahman. Now, when you say that Brahman exists in the beginning, Brahman asti, remember that you need the indicator, the lingam. What is the lingam? The upadhi, the karya prapancha. This is adhyasa portion. This is after that, adhyaropa, adhyasa portion. And then afterwards, you will come to karya, karana, vilakshana Brahman, which is the real nature of Brahman. And this Brahman, Shankara adds, is different from both known and unknown objects. Where did we see this? Brahman is different from known and unknown. We've already seen another Upanishad. They're all advanced students. Vidita, Avidita,
Saiji,
Anyaha. Yes, please, go ahead.
I don't know if it's the correct link, but is it Kena that it's not what you see, it's because of what you see?
That is the beginning mantras. You're right, it is Kera. Those are the beginning mantras. Later on, he says that it is both different from Vidita, known, and Avidita, unknown. Right? So it is different from what you know. It is different from what you don't know also. This is the apavada. right? And then Shankara, of course, gives a lot of mantras which support the negation. So he says, for example, Neti Neti, Iti Nidrishtaha, Nirdrishtaha. So through the Neti Neti technique, you can negate the Brahman. You can negate Brahman. This is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which we will do sooner or later. And he also gives another quotation from Brihadaranyaka, Asthulam Anu Anu Ahriswam, different from Sthulam, different from Anu. Sthulam is gross, Anu is subtle. Hrisva is short, in short, free from all attributes. That is also from Brihadaranyaka. Then he gives one from Taittiriya, which some of us have done, some of us have not done. Those who are not done, we'll be doing it next. So, Adrishye, Anatme, Anirupte, Anilaya. Invisible, without a body, not definable, and without any support. So, these are all various definitions, various Shruti mantras, which are used for negating the Satyatvam of Jagat. And he says, for that person, he writes very clearly, for that person who has first gained Saguna Jnana, Shankara's commentary, the person must gain Saguna Ishvara Jnana. And then he gains Nirguna Brahma Jnana. For that person only, in fact, it is Nirguna Jnanam Prakashate. For that person only, the Nirguna Brahman reveals itself. For which person? A person who has understood the true nature of Saguna Brahman as the creator of the universe. He becomes a jnani. Nirguna jnanam prakashate. He becomes a jnani. Remember that for the jnani, bhakti continues. It's a very wrong concept that the jnani knows that he is Brahman. So he no longer has any bhakti. Right? I've seen lots of people say that the jnani becomes an atheist because he realizes that there is really no Saguna Ishvara at all. That Saguna Ishvara is mithya, is vyavaharika. But remember that you yourself are in vyavaharika. How can you ever negate completely what you are? You are also vyavaharika satyam. As long as you are vyavaharika satyam, then Ishvara is definitely param vyavaharika satyam. You cannot negate. And therefore, for the jnani, as long as he has a body, bhakti continues, devotion continues. That is why you will see in all the mathams, a lot of chanting goes on, a lot of parayanam goes on. Knowledge does not displace bhakti. Okay. With this mantra, the main teaching of the Upanishad is over. Now we go to the Jnana Phalam. Let us chant. Mantra number 14. यदा सर्वे प्रमुच्यन्ते
यदा
यदा सर्वे प्रमुच्यन्ते
कामा ये सहृदिश्रिताः
कामयस्य हृदि श्रिताः
अथ मृत्योर्मृतो भवति
अथ
अथ मृत्युर्मृतो
भवति
भवति
अथ ब्रह्म समश्नुते
ब्रह्मश्नुते
यदा सर्वे कामः when all the desires ye shritaha which are present in the heart pramuchyate are dropped. Atha, then mrityaha, the mortal being, amritaha bhavati, becomes immortal. And what does that mean? Atra brahma samushnate. He becomes Brahman. Atra, here, in this world itself. He has Jivan Mukti. Right? So moksha is defined here as sarva kama nivritti, which means what? All desires are samsara. Why is that so? We have seen this before. Every desire arises out of a sense of incompleteness, apurnatva. Apurnatvam arises because of ajnanam. I do not know that I am Brahman, which is always Purnam. Therefore, I take myself as Apurnam. And if I am Apurnam, if I am incomplete, I always want to complete myself. Therefore, wherever there is a object which looks attractive, I want to possess that object. Right? But if I am Purnaha, I don't need that object. I might still look at that object. I might still enjoy seeing the object, but I don't need to possess it. Right? So if you are Apurna, you are a compulsive shopper. Right? If you are Purnaha, what do? You only do window shopping. You go there, see the thing, very good, very good. And then you will go away. So the jnani is a compulsive window shopper. Right? You look at the window and see the object, enjoy it, and walk. So you have dropped all your desires. Because moksha is purnatvam, nishkamatvam. Everything is within me alone. Therefore, what do I need? And therefore, it is yada sarva kaman pramuchyante. When all desires which are born out of your apurnatvam are dropped, then that is called moksha. Remember that desires can be two types of desires. One is born out of apurnatvam, and one is necessary for survival, instinctive desires. Food, water. So desires for food and water will not go away because they are born from the fact that you have a body. They're instinctive. And that is not what's talked about. We are talking about we are talking about desires which are born from apurnatvam. You want something because you think it will make you better, make you happier. If you have a desire, but it doesn't make any difference to you whether the desire is fulfilled or not, that is a non-binding desire. Right? When the when you have a desire, but the goal of that desire is not to make you happy. I mean, it's a very simple definition. When the goal of a desire is not to make you happy, that desire is a non-binding desire. And that is okay to have. It is only those desires which upset you when they are not fulfilled, which means that you think those desires are the ones which make you happy. Those desires are binding desires. Right? And therefore, as a jnani, you can have Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. You can do your exercise every day. You can do your meditation every day for maintaining your fit body, maintaining a fit mind. But remember, the fitness of your body and your mind is to enable you to enjoy the rest of your time on earth, but not for you to become happy. Because you have discovered that I am already happy, I am already Purnaha. And therefore he says, Athamrityo, Athamartyaha, the mortal being, Amrita Bhavati, he becomes immortal. And what does that mean? Atra Brahma Ashnute. He discovers in this life itself, Atra. He discovers that he is Brahman. So attaining Brahman is nothing but dropping the idea that I am Jivaha. And Shankara adds here, because of the destruction of the kama, etc., the desires, which is the cause of travel after death, because the destruction of the very cause of the travel after death, there will be no more travel for a jnani. Right? And he gives a nice example, like extinguishing a flame. The flame is not destroyed. It just merges back into the Agni Tattva. Another example is there. Another reason for the flame example is there. When the flame example is given to show that when the flame goes away, there is no residue at all. And therefore, free from all bondages, this Jivatma becomes Brahman. This is the meaning. Okay. Next mantra, 50. We're all more or less the same, line. Yada sarve pravidyante.
यदा
यदा
सर्वे
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 प्रविद्यन्ते
प्रविद्यन्ते
हृदयस्येय ग्रन्थयः
हृदयस्येह
हृदयस्येह
ग्रन्थयः
ग्रन्थयः
अथ मृत्योर्मृतो भवति
अथ
अथ
मृत्युर्मृतो
मृत्युर्मृतो
भवति
मृतो
मृत्युर्मृत्यो
भवति
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 एतवद्धि अनुशासनम्
एतवत्यनुशासनम्
एतवत्यनुशासनम्
So yada sarve hridaya granthayah pravidyante, when all the knots of the heart are destroyed. Iha, here itself on this birth, athamartyaha amritaha bhavati. Then the mortal becomes the immortal. Etavad hi anushasanam. Etavad hi anushasanam. Very important. This much alone is the teaching. Destroy the desires, binding desires, and you are a Jivan Muktaha. So, this is an explanation again to the previous mantra, saying that as long as you think you are a Jiva, as long as Jiva Bhava is there, you will always be finite. And therefore, there will always be Apurnatvam. How does Purnatvam come? You have to drop all the binding desires. Right? And since you have a body, you can hand over the body itself to Ishvara with the thought that I am no longer the owner of the body. I am only the trustee. The trustee is not so much bothered about the thing which he is a trustee of. You will still exist, but you will have no more identification with the body because it is not yours. You have handed it over already. You are Atma alone, who is occupying, who is enlivening an incidental body. The body can have lots of complaints, but Atma can have no complaints at all because Atma is Purna. And therefore it says Yada Sarve Grantayaha Vidyante, when all the knots are gone. And we say that there are 5 knots, or we can actually make it into 2 basic knots, which we can expand into 5. The 2 basic knots are Ahankara, Mamakara. Knot means bondage, okay? So 2 basic bondages are Ahankara, Mamakara. Ahankara you can expand into 2. What is that?
body mind.
Body, mind. Mamakara you can expand into 3. Possession, profession, family. Therefore, the family relatives. Therefore, you have 5 knots: body, mind, possession, profession, and family. So, pravidyante means this is snapped. Snapped means you have understood that body mind complex is not mine. It belongs to Ishvara. I am Atma alone. And Iha means when the body is still alive. Therefore, when these 5 knots get dropped, Jiva Bhava gets dropped. And even though I am still occupying them, 5 Ahankaras are still around me, I will take care of them because they are Ishvara's property and don't belong to me. Then only Ataha, then Martyaha, Amritaha Bhavati. The mortal becomes the immortal. He attains mukti while living, Jivan mukti. Etad hi anushasanam. This alone is the teaching. Okay. Remember, there are, when you talk about abhimanam, identification, there are 2 types we call. One is Vishesha Abhimanam, one is Samanya Abhimanam. So Samanya Abhimanam is which is born out of instincts, common to all living beings. That's why it's called Samanya. So Samanya identification gives rise to hunger, pain, all these things. These are not removed by jnana. Because you're a jnani doesn't mean that if somebody beats you on the head, you won't feel pain. Right? If you are a jnani, you might still get bothered about old age. Or ajnani, let us say. Ajnani might get bothered about old age. But does the animal worry about his old age? So samanya abhimanam belongs to everybody. So that is why animal does not worry about old age. But in addition to the samanya abhimanam, you can have a vishesh abhimanam. I am getting old. What will I do? Who will take care of me? This is vishesh abhimanam. This vishesh abhimanam is things like I am happy, I am unhappy, I am worried. These are all intellectual conclusions which are common to human beings. This is called jiva shashti. And hunger, physical pain, etc., common to everybody, all beings. It's called Ishvara Srishti. Jnanam cannot help Ishvara Srishti. Jnanam helps you only in annihilating the effects of Jiva Srishti. Vishesha Abhimana can be removed by Jnanam. Samanya Abhimana cannot be removed by Jnanam. And this is the end of the formal teaching. In the next verses, Yamaraj is just summing up the whole Upanishad. So we will look at verse number 16. Shatam chaika cha hridayasya nadayah
Satanchaikat
Tam
Shatam
chaika
chaika
hridayasya nadayah
nadayah
आसाम मूर्धानम अभिनिश्रितै श्रुतैका
tasam
तासां
मूर्धानभिनिश्रितैका
मूर्धानभिनिसृतवाः
तयोर्धुमायन् अमृतं तत्त्वमेति
tayoddhayan
तयोर्धर्मामृतं तमेति
विश्वङ्गन्या उत्क्रमेण भवन्ति उत्क्रमणे भवन्ति
विश्वङ्गन्यौत्कुर्मणे भवन्ति
So shatam cha ekacha. Shatam is 100. And ekacha 101. Shatam ekacha. Shatam cha ekacha 101. Hridayasya nadihi are the nadis coming out of the heart. Tasam, among those 101, ekaha avinihi srata. One comes out, murdhanam, through the top of the head. What does it do? Ayana urdhavam. It goes up. And taya, through that nadi, ati amritatvam. One attains immortality. Anyaha, all the other nadis, Vishwa Anga, they go in different directions. What happens if you go by those nadis? Utkarmane bhavanti. You come back again. It leads to rebirth. So it seems to be a change of topic. But remember that he is just summarizing using different ideas. So he is saying that, and this you should know because we have done Bhagavad Gita. When that one nadi which comes out through the top of the head, what is the name?
Sushumna
Sushumna nadi. When you go through that nadi, where do you go?
Brahmaloka
Brahmaloka. What is the result?
Kram
Possible result.
Kramamukti.
Possible result is Kramamukti. Remember, you can go to Brahmaloka and enjoy yourself and come back also. Okay. So Kramamukti is the result for karma plus upasana. And therefore, there are 101 nadis coming out of the heart and going to all the parts of the body. Among them, there is one which opens up in the middle of the skull, Murdhanam. And in his commentary, Shankara supplies the name Sushumna Nadi. This Nadi is called Sushumna. And what should the Upasaka Jiva do at the time of death? He should practice the Upasana. He should invoke Vishvarupa Ishvara. And because why should he invoke Vishvarupa Ishvara? Because all the family members are already been disconnected. They've been handed over earlier. So this is Aham Mama Tyagaha. Renunciation of Ahankara and Mamakara. And then Tayo, through that Taya, through that Sushumna Nadi, what should he do? This all details you see elsewhere also. It's not given here, okay. He should sit in meditative pose. He should withdraw the Sukshma Shariram and Karma Shariram from everywhere, and then he should go through this Sushumna Nadi. Okay, so goes to Brahmaloka, gets jnana, and then gets moksha. So in his commentary on this, it is not mentioned in the mantra, it is commentary on this. Shankara says very clearly, he gives details. He says, at the time of Varanam, Taya Antakale, at the time of Varanam, Atmanam Vashikritya Hridaye Yojayet. He should withdraw the Atmanam, that is the Sukshma Sariram, into the heart, which means all the Indriyas. Sukshma Sariram means the Indriyas are also there. All the Indriyas must be withdrawn from all the Golakams and brought to the heart. The prana must also be controlled and centered in the heart. All this means what? That you have to be a very accomplished yogi, in addition to being a very good meditator. Then what should you do? You have to slowly enter the Shushmana Nadi, and through that Nadi you should travel, and then you will go to Brahmaloka, and then you will meet Lord Brahmaji, then he will give you Jnanam, then you will get moksha. Right? So why is Shankara saying all this? Because on the face of it, it looks so difficult, right? At the time of death, most of us will be lying flat on the bed. You know, your what they call mind is already half gone. You're weak. Where is the question of sitting in meditation and withdrawing all the indriyas and then going through Sushumna Nadi? So what is Shankara saying?
Better to have jnana and don't think of Brahma Mukti, have Jivan Mukti and
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have
Nitya.
seen this what they call Sholay. Have you seen Sholay? Old movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
In
yes.
Sholay, there is a scene where Amitabh Bachchan is glorifying Dharmendra to the mousy.
Mm.
So he
Yes.
says all sort of things, you know. Idea is to produce the opposite result.
Mm.
That is what Shankara is doing here. He's saying forget Karma Murti, it's very difficult. Focus on Jivan Mukti. And Shankara himself says that you can understand this immortality in two ways. One is as apekshika, which is Jivan, which is Karma Mukti, because you go to Brahmaloka, you get jnana, and you remain in Brahmaloka as long as Brahmaloka remains. And then when Brahmaloka perishes, your body also perishes, and then you get jnana, right? And Atyantika thing is also there. No, I think this is Atyantika Mukti. That is, you get jnanam, and when finally that body perishes, you get full mukti. Or you can take it as relative immortality, where you go to Brahmaloka, but you don't go for classes. You just enjoy yourself. Then what happens when Brahmaloka ends? Anyway, you will die because you're not become a jnani. You have to come back to this earth. So he says there is two types of immortality. One is apekshikam, relative immortality, which means you go to Brahmaloka, but you don't get jnanam. You enjoy yourself, have a great life, and then die, and then come reborn. Or atyantika jnana, atyantika moksha, where it is you go there, you go to classes instead of enjoying yourself. After classes are over, then maybe you'll enjoy yourself. And when Brahmaloka ends, you will also end and you will not come back. And then he says, what if a person doesn't practice karma upasana? Anyaha vishvaranga. All other nadis go in all different directions. And whoever goes in a direction other than the Shushma Nadi direction, he will definitely be reborn again. Okay. Then, what about the person who has come to Jnana Yoga? This is the next mantra. So we'll try to finish this today if you don't mind. A couple of mantras are left. We might just spill over slightly. This is mantra number 17. Angushtamatra Purushonantaratma
Angushtamatra
Purushottam
Sada Jananam Hridaye Sannivishtaha
Sada
Sada
Jananam
Jananam
Hridaye
Sannivishtaha
and Swat Sharirat Pravrihet
Tam
Tam
Swachirya
Bhed
Pravrihet
Munjadiveshikam Dhairyena
Munjadipeshikam Dhairena
Tam Vidyat Utkamamratam
Tam
Tam
Vidyatuttamamritam
Kramamrutam
Tam Vidyat
Vidyachakramartas
Kramamratam iti.
Tam
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 Vidyat Amrutamiti.
Vidyatuttamamritamiti.
So, Purusha Anta Atma. Purusha Anta Atma. The Atma within the Purusha, Angushta Matra, is the size of a thumb. And Hridaye Sada Samnivishtaha is always seated in the heart, Jananam, of people. What should one do? Tam Pravrahet. One should separate that Swat Sharirat. So that breakup is important. The cha turns into sha, Swat Sharirat. From one's body, one should separate that Atma who is seated in the heart. How? Dhairyena, with a lot of diligence. And Ishikam Eva. Ishikam Eva Munjat. Like separating the stalk from the munja grass. Tam Vidyat, one should know. Shukram Amritam, to be pure, immortal. Tam Vidyat, Shukram Amritam, to be pure, immortal. Iti. Thus ends the teaching. So, what about the jnani, the one who has, decided that he doesn't want upasana and karma and all that, and he has come to jnana, right? So, this jnani is not interested in post-life travel. So, because after travel, one doesn't know where one will go. You might go to Brahmaloka, you might not go to Brahmaloka. So, this jnani is not interested in that travel, and therefore he comes to jnana, right? So, he has neither Shukla Gati, nor Krishna Gati, nor Adhogati. He wants no gati at all. He is the one who wants moksha. And this is the summary of if you remember the second boon, is the summary of that. So he says, Antaratma Purusha, the Atma in the heart, in the body, is Angushta Matraha, is seemingly the size of a thumb. It is available in the heart. And it is said that the heart is the space. If you close your, thumb, they say the heart is the size of your fist. So if you close your fist, then if you put your finger inside, that is there. Thumb you can put inside, right? So that is the space they're talking about. All very descriptive, all very much imagination only. So the space inside the heart is supposed to be the space of a thumb, and that is where this Antaratma is sitting, right? In the heart. And whose heart? Of all beings. And when is he available? Sada, always. What should you do? Tam pravarhe. Tam pravarhe, one should separate this Atma from the Anatma, from one's own body, that is from this Sthula, Sukshma, Sharira, Karanam, these three bodies. You should separate the Atma. This is not a physical task. It's a task of understanding only. Just like you look at the moonlight and while you see the moonlight, you cannot physically separate it from the moon. But you recognize that moonlight is not moonlight. It belongs to the sun. It is sunlight only shining on the moon, right? And therefore, that cognitive separation is what we are talking about. You look at the consciousness in the body and separate that consciousness from the body, understanding that the body is nothing but a reflecting medium. And this requires long exposure to Vedanta, Shravanam, Maranam, and very long Nididhyasanam. And he gives an example. How should you do it? Munja ishikam eva. Just like the person separates the kernel from the munja grass. Munja grass is very sharp, got a very sharp edge. And if you're not careful, you can cut one's hand, your hand while handling it. Therefore, you have to be very, very careful when separating the kernel from the grass. And like that, dhairyena, very carefully, you should separate. And Shankara says that pure consciousness should be extracted from the body. Extracted means what? Know that I am that pure consciousness, separate from the body. I should know myself as the Atma without the Anatma. And tam Jivatmanam Vidyat. One should know this Jivatma as what? Shukram Amritam. Pure and immortal. May I learn to claim Brahma Asmi. Whoever gets this knowledge will have no more gati after death. Tam Vidyat Shukram Amritam. Tam Vidyat Shukram Amritam Iti. The repetition indicates that the teaching has been completed. Because in the old days, there were no full stops. And therefore, you have to repeat just to indicate that this is the end. We look at the last one. Mrityo proktam nachiketo talabda labdva
Mrityoर्भोक्तां
Proktam
नचिकेतो
Nachiketo
लब्ध्वा
labdva
Talabdva
vidyam etam yoga vidim chakritsnam
विद्यामेतां योगविधिं च कृत्स्नम्
brahma prapto virajo bhut vimrityah mrityuh
Brahma
Brahma
ब्रह्म
Prapto
प्राप्तो
Virajo
विरजो
Virajo
अन्योप्येवं यो वितयात्म आत्ममेव
Anyopye
अन्योऽप्येवं
Yogyevamvam
यो
Vidityaratmaev
विद्यात्मैव
इति तृतीयवल्लिः
इति
iti
Iti
तृतीयवल्ली
Tritiyavallihi.
So Nachiketas Kritsnam Laptva. Nachiketas completely gained. Kritsnam is completely Etam Vidya, this knowledge. Cha Yoga Vidim, along with the knowledge of yoga required. Mrityu Proktam, taught by Mrityu, taught by Lord Yama. Atha Brahma Praftva, having attained Brahman. Abhut Virajaha, he became pure. Vimratyu, an immortal. Anya api eva, anyone else too. Anybody else too. Yaha evam vida adhyatmam, who knows the Atma in this manner, he will also attain moksha. So the teaching was successful. Therefore, this is Upanishad talking. This is Yamaraja stopped. And Nachiketa is not saying anything else. Upanishad says, Nachiketaha labdva, successfully understood this teaching. Etam vidya, this Atma Vidya, Kritsnam Yoga Vidimcha. He so completely understood the teaching plus all the yogic disciplines associated with the teaching. So here it is Yoga Vidihi. Yoga Vidihi here refers to Nididhyasana, internalization of the teaching. Mrityu Proktam, taught by Yamaraja. He became free from all impurities, misconceptions like I am Karta, Bhokta, etc. Brahma Praptihi, he became Brahman. He got his Jivan Mukti. And when the body dies, he will get Videha Mukti. And therefore, Shruti ends up with a warranty. Anyaha yeha, any other person, yaha evam adhyatma eva, who gains the knowledge in the same manner in which Nachiketas gained, as what Aham Brahma Asmi. Once you gain that knowledge, he will become free from ignorance, misconception, and samsara. He will be Brahman alone. With this, the Upanishad is over. Any questions?
Yeah, Om Acharya. In last class, I'm not remembering which class, Upanishad or Gita, we talked about that this Jivan Mukti, Nitya Mukta is better than Jivan Mukta because Jivan Mukta is a coming, going kind of thing. Could you
No.
please
Jivan
specify here
Mukta,
that are you
Jivan Mukta and Videha Mukta are ideas for the junior student.
yes. So here,
Well, Nitya Mukta is the idea that I don't need liberation because I'm always liberated.
yes. So here, is it the same Nitya Mukta, but
He's talking about Jivan Mukti.
That's why.
Every Upanishad will not talk about Nitya.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll come to that. You will have Mandukya and all that, Nitya talked about. So with this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnamudachyate
Purnasya
Purnasya
Purnamadaya
Purnamadaya
Purnameva Vashyate
Purnamevavasishyate
Om Shanti Shanti
Om
Shanti. Om Tatsat, Om Namah Shivaya.
Om
Thank you for
Shivaya. Thank you,
patience.
Charaji.
I hope you
Thank you,
enjoyed the
Acharya.
journey.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, sir.
Thank you so